Let's just start the class. We'll skip the chanting today because we've already taken a lot of time. Kind of experimenting. Just do the invocation. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. We are now entering into the crux of Vedantic understanding. Two starts with Vedanta and its import to what is truth, what is Satyam, what is reality, what is one's true nature, you can call it, by jumping steps, but is the essence of life. What is the essence, truth, life that we feel, we perceive, and our own owning up that I am alive. With this we started. The author said, what is Tattva Viveka? And the definition he gives, or the understanding he imparts, is Ātmā Satyam Tat Anyat Sarvam Mithya Iti. We saw this in the last class and quite clearly, I think. Word here is, there is only Satyam, which is called Ātmā. सत्य सिर्फ आत्मा को कहा है, उसके अलावा सब कुछ मिथ्या है. So the two words were very essential and they are the very basic, I call it on one hand, but on the other hand, that alone is Vedanta. अगर ये समझ में आ गया है तो बाकी सब आगे जो चलेगा, everything will be better understood, grasped, because we understand the word Satyam and Mithya correctly. For this, last time I had introduced a third word, Tuchyam. Tuchyam, there was a spelling mistake. I don't have it now here. Tuch लिखा था मैंने. It is tuch. After cha is a cha. So please make that as a note. Tuchyam. Tuchyam is something which is just not ever going to be there. Never, non-existent, unreal. It is unreal in the sense that it is non-existent. Kabhi hoga nahi. Not possible. Satyam, on the other hand, was what is real. Our understanding of Satyam has always been with reference to what is real. And real, if you watch carefully, has the understanding of what is existent. Jo hai. So you always recognize that हम जब real word use करते हैं ना, is this a real cup? Is this a real picture? Is this a real object? Is this a real snake? Is this a real flower? जब हम real कह रहे हैं तो हम take it for granted. It is encapsulated in the word real, the understanding, the meaning of it being existent. But from last class we saw very clearly that existence seems to be the base underlying. But when I talk of real flower, then I seem to have also the knowledge of something which is not real but is existent, and that was an artificial flower, an artificial snake, an artificial glass will always be artificial, but I mean to say toy glasses, spectacles, toy spectacles. Idea of real brings with it existence. Vedanta says this existence is actually Ātmā. Now, author is going to take us step by step. So we will not jump steps, go very systematically. A very great opportunity we have. Do not overstep yourself in thinking. Just follow the steps. Ātmā, in the previous, he said, is Satyam. Everything else is Mithya, which means wherever there is existence, but it is not real, appearing real is Mithya. It appears real. Now, obviously, the next question is, what is Ātmā? Because Ātmā Satyam hai. बाकी सब मिथ्या है. सत्य मिथ्या समझ गए. आत्मा हमने, from whatever words we saw, as a word it means the subject, the subjective reference. But what is Ātmā? Gives here now the further understanding, explanation further. He says, when the student asks the question, Ātmā kaha? The teacher says, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat. Sharirat means usse, in तीनों से, स्थूल सूक्ष्म कारण शरीर से. व्यतिरिक्तः अलग है. Other panchakosha atitah san. It remains distinct from 5 koshas. Other avastha traya sakshi. It is the sakshi of the 3 avasthas. Jagrat, Sapna, Sushupti. Satchidananda Swarupaha San. Yaha Tishtati Saha Ātmā. Remaining अपने स्वरूप से, सत चित आनंद as its लक्षण. उसका स्वरूप का लक्षण है सत चित आनंद. तिष्ठति, the one that remains like that, उसी को आत्मा कहते हैं. Now all these words he is going to explain step by step. But before we move to explaining them, here I am going to take a pause to explain just the word, what do we mean by vyatiriktah? Ātmā kaha? Ātmā vyatiriktah. It is separate. हम किससे हम बाद में करेंगे. But separate it is. What does the word vyatiriktah mean? Supposing I give you a cup of milk. Have a glass of milk and forget to drink, and it's just left there. And after a day or so, in summer, suddenly you find it's curdled away. When it's curdled, there is a separation of whey and cottage cheese. Is there a lot of disturbance of some drilling sound? No? ठीक है, thank you. So there is a separation of water whey from its cottage cheese. अलग हो गया. That means before वो अलग हुए, वो एक से थे, एक ही दिख रहा है, बट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक उसकी है कि वो अलग हो गए, हो सकते हैं. And when they are separate, one is solid, one is liquid. They are different completely in properties. They are separate entities. व्यतिरिक्तः, आत्मा is व्यतिरिक्त इन सब से. इन सब से further explanation later. But व्यतिरिक्त है. We have to understand this very clearly. What do you see here? Someone? What do you see?
A star, a shining star.
Okay.
Sun.
Sun.
Sun's reflection on water.
Sun's reflection on water. Very good. See, what is it? See, it is the same image. It is sun's reflection on water. But when you just see this, looks like a star, it's a sun. When you say it is a reflection of sun, mark the word. Reflection of sun. How can a reflection be there? Ask yourself few questions. मैंने straight away कह दिया it's a reflected sun. A reflected sun is implying what? Let's take a few questions. Okay, before that. Same thing. What is this?
It's like a railing on reflection on water along with the sun.
Okay, clear. But when you see it as an image, you see the sun in the image. You know very well in your mind, sun यहाँ नहीं है. You know in your mind, sun is, this is reflected. Go back to the previous image. When you see this as reflection here on water, this is all reflection. All of this is reflection. When you see reflection here, you are never ever in ignorance of the fact that this is not real sun. You say it is a reflected sun. In your understanding, you know the sun, real sun, is not in this perception, is not in this image, is not in this one frame. I have captured it. I have captured sun, I say. When I've taken a picture, I say I have captured the sun. Where? Reflecting in water. I've captured the sun in water. But in my knowledge, I'm never mistaken that this sun is not real. That the sun is not real. I know it is reflected. The minute you ask a few questions on this image now, first of all, is the shadow reflection in every way like the sun? You are seeing the shadow, you are seeing the reflection. Is it absolutely the same as the sun? There is a parallel image. Because there is a sun, there is an image. The image is so similar, so very similar to the original that I can safely say sun hi hai ye. It is a reflection of the sun. Question, is it real or unreal now? Just in this framework, in this frame, if I say this is sun here, is this sun real or unreal? Can't say it's unreal. You can't say it is real. You can only say it is reflected. Why? Because you know very well that the real sun is different, separate, distinct from what appears here. What I'm seeing actually is sun over there. उसको मैं sun कहती हूँ. मगर इसको भी मैं sun तो कह ही रही हूँ. But I have absolutely never mistaken this to be the real sun. कभी गलती हुई नहीं मुझसे. किसी से भी हुई? When you know it's a reflected sun, कभी भी any time has anybody ever felt a reflected sun mistaken to be the real sun? Can't make that. It just can't happen because the knowledge of the real sun is very clear to you. The knowledge of what is real sun helps me know whatever I'm seeing is definitely its image, because without that sun I wouldn't have a reflection here. But ये तो वो sun नहीं है. It is not real, it is not unreal, but it is not possible to have this image unless until there is a real sun. So it is mithya. It is reflected is the word capture. Question, ask yourself, the sun that I see here in this image, is it permanent or is it going to be impermanent? To know whether it is permanent or impermanent, I just have to wait a few hours. When the water dries up, I'll see the sun vanishes, or when the sun moves its course, I will see the sun vanishes from here. That means ye sun anitya hai. It's temporary. The reflected sun is dependent on the real sun, looks absolutely alike, seems to get its properties and characteristics from the real sun, is not real, and applying nitya nitya vastu viveka vichar, I also recognize that it is temporary. It's anityam. Two things I have come to discover about this reflected image, sun. One is mithya. It is a distinct category in itself. I cannot say it's unreal, I cannot say it's real, but it is there, it's existent, I can see it. At the same time, when I discern a little more, I can pick up its characteristic. While that sun remains, this sun comes and goes. Traditional example for this is, unfortunately, I couldn't find an image at all, but I really wish I had. The traditional example for this is a pot of water, a clay pot of water. And on a bright sunny day, what do you see in that water? Sun. The same example, but more present time. It is the same sun that is seen in the pot. That pot holding the water, capable of pressing the reflection of the real sun. You'll have to mark the words. When I see that there is the real reflection, so-called, the reflection being real to me, this whole pot is kind of a vision. It is making the sun shine in the pot. And I'm actually seeing the sunlight in the pot, sun reflected in the pot. I don't have to look up. By seeing the image of sun in water, I know the sun there. When I see it here, I know the sun is there. So is sun in the pot of water, in this pool of water at all? No, it is vyatiriktaha. Even though it looks like it is there, but it is vyatiriktaha. It is actually not there. It is distinct from it completely. Take this example here. We all say, I ask you, who are you? आप हम पहली बार मिलते हैं, आप हमसे मिलते हैं. Say we are traveling in a train and we have not to spend a lot of time in those times. Second class में जा रहे हैं. It's a lot of time to chit chat with our neighbors and strangers. And when we chit, आप कहाँ से आए हो? आपका नाम क्या है? You know, क्या करते हैं आप? आपके घर में कौन कौन है? You know, all that is conversation is a sign that you are alive. Your breathing is a sign that you're alive. You saying that I am here is a sign that you are conscious. You're aware. This awareness, consciousness, in English, here completely as something that is making me conscious of things and beings. This consciousness reflected in this body. The pot is the body. But the notion that I am, that sense of being an individual, I'm an individual. This sense, this individuality is what is said as. He said that. You understand Vyatiriktaha clearly. You recognize just as in this image, I can never mistake myself to be a part of that here. The sun to be a part of the image. In the same way, when someone asks me, who are you? And I say, I am this name and form. I am this gender. I am these qualities. I am this and that and everything. When I say I am all of this, I to me is actually as much as sun in a pot, sun reflected in a pot. जिसको हम मैं कह रहे हैं, ये मैं is actually the reflection in the pot. And the pot is what? The body. We'll see more details as we go ahead in the text. For now, understand only this much. Clarity should be of this much. Vyatiriktaha. Ātmā vyatiriktaha. It is completely separate. That means, when I say I'm conscious, मैं हूँ, I am functioning and behaving with a sense of a reality about my existence. थोड़ी सूक्ष्म बात है ये. It'll need a little attention and maybe re-listening a couple of times. When I say मैं हूँ में, my sense of reality and my sense of existence are cohabitating. Means they are together. They are mixed up. They're so mixed up. And third thing, with what are they mixed up? They are mixed up with the body, pot. It's as much as saying, when I see the sun reflected in the pool of water in the pot, and suddenly the sun in the pot starts feeling, मैं sun हूँ. No doubt, वो sun है. But does it have any independent existence other than the sun there up there, from where it is reflected? Does it have any existence at all? Yes or no? Does it have any existence in the, supposing there is no sun up there, will it have an existence in the pot?
No.
It won't.
It can't have an existence in the pot क्योंकि sun ही नहीं है तो reflect क्या होगा? So what is reflected in the pot, and if it starts developing a sense of identity, मैं हूँ, the sun in the pot is now reflecting because it is light. It is shimmering. It is hot. It has the same characteristics as the sun, except it's not real. It's a very strange phenomenon, but everyday life we see this all the time, but we never question it. We never bother to understand it fully in its depth. I'm glad you can't hear the drilling because I can. My upstairs probably is drilling some sounds, and they are drilling through my ear and through my brain. Totally drilling through. I'm glad the mic is not picking that up. Now, it's a real sound. And I am so really hearing the sound. I'm aware of the sound. I'm conscious of the sound. I've recognized it as a drilling sound. But all of this knowledge has me, the existent one, already as a base in it, the मैं, the I. The only question to be figured out is, me, this is a temporary or permanent? जिसने अभी आवाज सुनी, is it permanent or temporary?
Temporary?
It's temporary. हमारे हिसाब से it's temporary. Vedanta says this is the error that we make. जो हम मैं जिसको हम टेम्पररी कह रहे हैं, ये तो रिफ्लेक्टेड सन हो गया, because it's temporary. And there is a real sun without which there cannot be a temporary sun. That there is a real me. There is a real chaitanyam is the right word. Consciousness, awareness is great in English to convey certain conditioned way of knowledge. But there is a chaitanyam about me. That chaitanyam is not restricted to the pot, to the body. This chaitanyam that I just got aware of the sound, for the chaitanyam I couldn't have got aware of the sound. Thanks to Chaitanyam, I'm aware of the sound. But for the pot, there would not be a reflection of sun. But for this pool of water, there cannot be a reflection of sun here. There is a reflection of sun possible only because there is a pool of water, a pot of water, no doubt. But the mistake that's happening, or the identity crisis, or you may call it the mistaken identity or misplaced identity that's happening, is that when I have so identified with what I see, what I hear, what I feel, what I taste, what I smell, and just from the moment I have been conscious as a person, from day one, my consciousness in Shastra says even before, but just that we don't recognize it. Even our fetal life we are conscious of, but there is no memory of it the minute we come back, but I'm conscious of it. This conscious मैं जिसको मैं कह रही हूँ, if I am going to restrict it only around this body, then I have made a grave error in my understanding of calling the reflected sun the real sun. Calling this reflected consciousness the real consciousness. Calling this मैं as ever existent, who really is ever existent, but not as a form. Not as a hearer of one perception, or a smeller, or a taster, or a feeler, etc. The fact that व्यतिरिक्तः word means अलग है. आत्मा व्यतिरिक्तः. From what? स्थूल सूक्ष्म कारण शरीर. Now you will see the definition into clarity further. If we understand this much and digest this much first, the idea of Satya and Mithya, and second is that Ātmā is Vyatiriktah from everything, because everything else is Mithya, means everything is falling under the category of a reflected sun. Then what is Satyam? Real sun दिखता है ना. प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पे सिर्फ इतनी आ जाती है कि जो ये रियल मैं है, which is only चैतन्य स्वरूप, and he gives in the definition सत चित आनंद स्वरूप. I don't recognize that as myself. So when I'm not recognizing that swarupa, my inherent nature, the real sun, then this reflected sun through my equipments, further I don't want to pre-use too many technical terms, just understand it in the simple way in this concept. Just as the reflected sun cannot have an existence without the original sun, so too my usage of me as an individual is not possible unless and until there is a real me. There is me ever existent. Unless and until it is there, it is not possible to use even in this manner to say I am tasting, I am smelling, I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't, I am hurt, I am fearful, I will eat you up. When I'm angry, I will eat you up. I'm going to eat you. Will you really eat the person? But what do you mean? I will eat you up. Now, all the usage that we do, every usage of a reference of I is restricted to the pot sun. Sun in a pot of water. I don't want to use the word reflected because it's understood it's reflected. When you see sun in a pool of water in a pot, in a picture, when you see it there, if only you can translate this as I say this in your mind, it's laughable. It's actually a fun thing. It's a joke. It's hilarious. Hamari condition is hilarious. You know, people call when there's a lot of grief, and so we all of us, including me, we are all so as if these things are so real in life. But actually speaking, देखा जाए तो is my calling the sun in the reflected pool of water real? Is that sun real? और अगर मैं उसको real मान के सब कुछ कर रही हूँ, can I ever be happy? Because वो sun तो आएगा जाएगा. So my happiness is not independent. And if I say my happiness is not an independent entity in itself, I have to use the word entity, then that means this is reflected sun. क्योंकि अगर वो आनंद मेरा reflected है, तो it has to replace itself with दुख. अगर reflected के थ्रू है, तो वो replace करेगा ही दुख से. और दुख अगर reflected है, तो वो सुख से ही reflected होगा. Because धूप आएगी, धूप जाएगी. सन आएगा तो सन जाएगा. Temporary है ना. So there's a whole lot of things I have, it's, getting the cat out of the bag kind of a thing. The fact is that whatever I say as मैं, as aham, as I, if it is referring to this body, my understanding of me is my body, and it is further, I am born and I will die. It is further that I like this and I don't like this. It is further that I want this and I don't want this. These are my people. They are not my people. These are my relatives. These are not my relatives. They are my friends. They are not my friends. I hate that person. I love this person. I want more money. I have no money. I want status. I don't have status. I want fame. I don't have fame. I have fame. I am sick of fame. I have पूरा जिंदगी जब से पैदा हुए हैं और जब तक हम सोचते हैं कि हम मर रहे हैं, my whole thing has one reference point, that is मैं. But what Vedanta says is clearly discern, it's discernible, that this मैं जिसको हम real मान के चल रहे हैं, this is a reflected sun. It is a reflected consciousness. This is only the pratibimba. Pratibimba is the word for reflected. ये तो प्रतिबिंब है आत्मा का. ये तो आत्मा नहीं है. प्रतिबिंब है. But can you have a pratibimb without Atma? No. Without this condition, is a pratibimb possible? No. So the irony is that though the pot came about, the condition brought about, it rained in my balcony, the water got collected, and then it stopped raining, and the sun suddenly lit upon the floor. I cannot even see, this is such a one, I just call this one of my most favorite photographs. I just love this photograph. For what? Because it goes on talking to me so much. It just talks to me. I don't see the floor. I see so many tiny reflected beings over there in the background. Caged. Inverted cage. The reflection's inverted. So it's the railing that is falling in an inverted way. Now you see what is Ātmā and its inversion. Is this aham, what people are calling ego all the time in life. But this ego word Vedanta में इतना कुछ important है नहीं. जो इंग्लिश में इतना ज्यादा इशू बन जाता है, ये बड़ा इगोइस्टिक है, बड़ा ये है. हम तो हंसते हैं, हम कहते हैं आप इगोइस्टिक कैसे नहीं हो सकते? Because you don't have a perception of real you. When you don't have a perception of you, you are an individual. An individual is all ego. You have called the pot as yourself. Under these circumstances, as this, you have to get all these pieces settled inside. Ātmā is Vyatirikta, means The real me is Vyatirikta to this reflected me. What I call as me, what I refer to as me is a reflection, is a pratibimba. It no doubt has all the characteristics of the real. But if I believe this to be me, real, and I don't see it as mithya, then remember the previous one. What is the problem if you see Satyam as real? I'm sorry, mithya as real? Then you misplace it in such a way that it starts giving you sorrow. I'm glad that to talk I don't have to hear. Can there ever be a recognition of मैं, I am? All I have to recognize is, I'm rephrasing the words, all I have to recognize is that my placement of मैं, is it placed on the body, my thoughts?
Now we can hear it, DPG.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Yeah. What's happening here? They are literally sitting on my head over here and drilling it away. So, is this मैं real? Because we in our Vedanta आगे चल के कहेगा that I don't recognize this difference. I don't discern it. That is why the heading here is discerning the perception. And all of this is all in mind. You are lucky, Rajni. All of it is in mind. It's in a way you look at it. I said it in one of the previous slides in the last class. It is the way I look at a thing. That alone is what is clear. As who, what is real, and what is mithya. Now there's just one more point left as we move ahead. What do you see here? Many suns? These are many suns. Is it really so? Somebody asked a question, I've forgotten now where, who. Recently someone had asked. Many Ātmas? I am one reflected entity. I'm reflecting consciousness. I'm a reflected being. I'm reflecting Chaitanyam. Are there many reflected Chaitanyams? No.
The other day you had said they're all one.
Because sun is one, no? Only sun one. There are so many reflections on one water body. Water is one. Not only is it one, all that's happening is this ocean, the sea, whatever you want to call it, this lake, it only has many waves. And each wave becomes the medium for reflection of the same sun. So you think there are many life Atmas, many. According to Vedanta, and particularly Advaita Vedanta, all these are same reflections. They are reflections of the same being, same entity. There are not many reflections, in fact. All that I see as many here is actually only one. Ekam eva. That Satyam is Ekam. This me seeing many is Mithya. When you say there are many Atmas, there are many reflecting mediums. There are many waves. But waves cannot exist without water. and that water is not many. So wherever there is matter, I'm bringing it now to matter. When you understand this in details, what is the body? What is first? Let me start with pot. What is pot? Clay.
Mud. Yeah.
Mud.
Hmm.
It's mud. It's clay. Clay pot. Mud pot. What is mud and clay? Matter. Is this matter? What is matter? Is it an existing, independent existence? A question that Vedanta makes all of us think very deeply. Does matter exist independently as what science claims it? According to science, what is this many suns here, life form? What is the consciousness? According to science, consciousness is a property of this body. It's expressing in the body. It has come about. So as many bodies, so many consciousness available. Because the minute you were born, they said you were conscious. Ask you the question, were you conscious in the fetus or not? As a fetus, in your fetal life? Is the fetus conscious or not? It's to become conscious. Rudimentary. Before that, the whole food cycle is explained in the Upanishads. Before that, it is the food that makes the basics of the first form of life. Is that conscious or not?
Deepti, can I ask something, or should I ask after we're done?
Depends on the question. If your question is related
No,
to
no, it's
immediate
pertaining to this. I think I'll ask after. I'll note it down and I'll ask later.
because somebody said basically the question, if it's pertaining to what is immediately said or in the text, then it can be brought up. Otherwise, because it can trigger a lot of general questions also, which may be relevant, we'll take it up later. And why sometimes I do not allow these questions to come, better to write to me first, because sometimes a question is so personal that not everybody needs to know that question. So unless until that question is absolutely relevant to everybody's learning, it is not telecasted in that sense. These are all now public. So we wouldn't, so it's better to write, and then if it's whatever question pertains to everyone's learning, I'll take it up. That's why I switch off later on, because many times it's not relevant. And sometimes I've also seen that one person's question, somebody said it could be somebody else's question. That's a very big presumption. Sometimes your questions may not be so well formed, and it may be just your individual query, relevant, yes, valid, yes, but it can land up to confusing someone else because it's partial knowledge. So unless until your questions are framed like, whenever the question is properly framed and to the context, it will definitely be brought up for everyone's sake so that everybody learns from it. Otherwise, they'll be dealt at the level at which they are. So if it is immediately, and as you say, you'll ask later. Coming back, and I'll just conclude it over here now. The idea is that Ātmā Vyatiriktaha. You have to understand this is the, I also lose my word over here. It's the crux. It's the fundamental on one hand, and it's the only essential thing in Vedanta. Yehi Vedanta hai. Getting this idea clear and then being able to reflect it enough to be able to see it clearly. Satya, Mithya, Anveshanam. Separating them, discerning them. That wherever there is the usage of aham, as I was just mentioning, for science, matter is real, and consciousness is a part of it. When I say I'm born, I was on that point here. The child is born. When the first time the parents hold the child in their hands, now they know the child is born. But Vedantan would turn back and ask, was the child born now? Yes, the child's come into this world now. At this point when it comes out of the mother's womb. But in the mother's womb, is the child alive? That's why the mother gets really excited when the child is kicked first time, because now the child is alive. In her womb, but the child is alive. Now the child being alive here, science says, and to Vedantins, it is a rudimentary thinking to think that you think consciousness began there. The child showed the expression of consciousness here when it became alive. To Vedanta, life, consciousness is not a property of matter. It's not a part of matter. Wherever there is a reflecting medium, consciousness reflects. But it is distinct in characteristic to the medium in which it is reflected. So you have to capture that point. It is distinct in characteristic, in quality, in all form, like whey and cheese. It's distinct. When this becomes clear, then dhire dhire na tattva vivek ka prakar, as the author will go on giving us, you will start to begin to discern what is separate from what. Much I think for today. We'll continue tomorrow. Let's conclude it. Someone wants to chant the Shanti Patha?
मैं anyway कोई भी
नहीं आप कीजिए, no problem.
नहीं आकांक्षा I think
फॉलो करेंगे.
हाँ जी
अंकल आप करिए.
अच्छा बेटा thank you.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु.
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु.
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु.
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु.
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु.
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु.
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः.
सर्वे सन्तु निरामया.
सर्वे सन्तु निरामया.
सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु.
सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु.
मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.
मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.
ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम्.
ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम्.
न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषा.
न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषा.
गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम्
गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम्
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु
काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः
काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः
पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी
पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी
देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः
देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः
ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः
ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भया
ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
and I am